get ready for this now, for the gospel message has not yet or hardly yet been heard by 2 million human beings. What? Only 2 million human beings have heard the gospel according to a decree, which is a lawful order out of a court of the Vatican. So we need to tidy up our own house, and it starts with the records. And guess who's in charge of records? The Chancellor. Chancellor, I need to inform you of a situation that will require your execution and enforcement of canon law, possibly the involvement of competent ecclesiastic forum, perhaps even a nod from the Vicar of Christ. The errors and omissions I am about to make you aware of must surely exist for a specific reason. I believe that reason is so that they may be corrected, initiating a sea of changes resulting in the faithful's liberation from bondage and their empowerment to conform the temporal order to the will of the Lord. It's a great day. By the power of the spoken word, memorialized by ink on paper, you will be releasing the Christ in us into the world. Just change the records. Just change the records. That's all you need to do. Don't need to change records. You need to correct the records. That's the thing. There's nothing wrong with the records other than they're incorrect, and you have the power to correct them. But verily I say, that which I tell you now is from this time forward considered a crime against humanity, unless and until the church corrects its records. One being cognizant of a crime of this magnitude with the authority to administer the correction to the error or omission and refusing or delaying execution is committing a misprision here on earth and is an enemy of God. Canon 24. No custom which is contrary to divine law can acquire the force of law. 1.2 billion Catholics are counting on you to acknowledge the errors and omissions on sacramental records. See to their correction and end our civil death. She just said that, what she said is they just do it that way. That's a custom, right? Because unless you're telling me that I am a bastard, and so therefore there was a mistake in the record because I'm not a bastard, then fix the record. But in law, what matters is what the record says. What the record says under seal, and this is under church seal, and this says that I'm a bastard. And I'm sure that 1.2 billion other Catholics got the same problem. But no custom which is contrary to divine law can acquire the force of law. So we need them to change the record. Certain record-keeping policies of the Catholic Church and its lack of full disclosure of vital information has aided in the enslavement of mankind and enforced disappearance of persons by usurpers of civil office using color of law and simulated legal process. This activity is a crime against humanity and subject to prosecution under Roman statute and the International Criminal Court, Vatican City law, civil rights laws of any nation, and of course canon law. Errors and omissions in records administered by the Catholic Church mimic in many ways the same disregard for key fiduciary duties by color of law civil authority. We live in a society where nobody is elected to the office. Yes, I know they're standing there. Yes, I know when you go to court there's a judge there, and there's the clerk, and there's somebody standing behind the treasurer's desk, but none of them were elected. They didn't follow the proper procedure. I did numerous videos on this, showed the evidence, showed their election paperwork. They're not elected. It's what's called color of law, and it is a crime against humanity. The enforced disappearance of a person, that's a crime against humanity, right? They took my legitimate, I should have a sui juris civil personality because I am of age. I can take care of myself. I can take care of my own situation. But they have, and they've given us this civil defect so that you need to have a guardian. And everything they do is for your protection. They'll tell you that. First, for the lack of full disclosure. Vatican II decree on missionary work. Okay, we already read this, right? This is where it talks about, for the gospel message has not yet or hardly yet been heard by 2 million human beings. Somebody explain that to me. Chancellor, what the heck are 1 billion plus Catholics listening to if not the gospel message? Only 2 million human beings have heard it, ever. Of those, still denied? Some still denied the message? By what authority is the gospel message being kept secret? In the name of the Lord Emmanuel, the Christ Jesus, I demand the gospel message be released to the world so it can be preached by his lay apostolate. Get behind me, Satan. Let's see the book. or the word, whatever it is. I want to hear it. Anything written is just a memorial to the event, and I'm not one who believes everything that only what's in the Bible is what there is. That's obviously incorrect. There's much more to it. People would like you to think that's all there is, but no, there is something missing.
Now, what we're going to do today, we're going to have 5 different segments here. And we're going to go through the parts of speech and explain what the parts of syntax are when it comes to writing. We are then going to explain how the parts of a sentence are constructed. Then we're going to go to the way that the federal government has created over 40 million mortgages under the fraudulent conveyance of language under the laws of Title 18, 1001, and Title 15, Section 1692E under false and misleading statements, Title 18, Section 242, deprivation of rights under coloring of the laws. And we're going to explain the sentence structure from the mortgage and how it is used as fraud. We're going to explain the sentence structure used by the attorneys to support the mortgage, how they are using fraud. And then we're going to explain how the banking system uses your money to make you both the borrower and the lender.
If you are a U.S. citizen, you're operating under public policy. Now, a lot of us think that public policy is the same thing as public law. We haven't had any laws at all since 1933. So what we have is we have a policy that you're operating under by consent. So with every policy that they try to pass, or they do pass, they call it an act. Now, if you've ever been to a play at school for your children, they're in a play and it's an act, okay? And so you can tell that they're acting because they have on costumes. And so when they passed the Department of Motor Vehicles Act, they made sure that you knew that you were participating in an act and it wasn't real, okay? That's why they dressed up all the actors. We have costumes on the Highway Patrol. We have costumes on the Sheriff Department. We have costumes on the judge when you get there. You're participating in a suit when you get to court. Suit comes from the word suit. This guy is in a suit right now, and so the attorneys wear suits. That's their costume. And you show up, and you're supposed to dress just like a citizen. And most of you tonight are dressed like citizens. That's how we dress when we're citizens. So what I'm saying all that for, if that makes sense, is that if those were all laws, there would only be 10 of them there. Although they didn't have planes and cars and all that stuff there, most of the people in that time era were biblical, okay? They had a Bible and they had a law book, okay? They knew the law, and those are the two books that they had on their hearth of their fireplace. And instead of going home and watching TV, or going down to the gym, or whatever they did, whatever we do now, bridge club, NASCAR races, I mean, you got to understand that the de facto has put everything in front of us to keep us distracted. I mean, every sport you can think of is on TV. When I was a kid, we had, I think, 13 channels, maybe 12, because Channel 1 wasn't a channel. But we only had 12 channels, and if there wasn't something on TV that we liked, that thing was off most of the time. We were out playing. I mean, I didn't have video games. And our children don't have the same thing that's going on. And if you look at the underlying of what all's going on with that, they're using all of that to keep us beat down, to keep us tired, to keep us working, and so that we don't go on the internet and read the District of Columbia Act from 1871. Conscription Act. We call that a martial law now. Okay, so under martial law, president can write anything and it's considered as law. Okay? Now, once we come out of martial law, all those laws are abated. That means they're no longer in effect. Okay? So if you notice, every president since then has declared war on something. Declared war on drugs. We've declared war on poverty. They've all declared war on something to keep us into a state of war, so that the president has ultimate power in our country. Okay? And he said, square brackets. A lot of the stuff in the Constitution doesn't pertain to us, doesn't pertain to citizens. Now I knew this because I was the Chief Justice for a little while, and I knew that the Supreme Court had ruled that when people come in and say, I demand my constitutional rights, the judge says, sit down and shut up. If you say that again, I'm going to throw you in jail. And what the reason why is because the Supreme Court ruled that the Constitution, that the citizens are not a party to it. How could that be? It talks about the 14th Amendment and the slaves. They're a part of it. We're all a part of it. That's our Constitution to keep the government below us. Well, let me show you what I found. Article 1. You see how that's written? In the original Constitution, that's how it's written. Let's slide up about, let's go to the 13th to 14th Amendment. It talks about the people a lot. Now, this is just an observation that I made. There's 3, 4, oh, back. Has anybody seen any square boxes? The rights of the citizens of the United States. That isn't a part of the contract. It's on there. But citizens don't have rights. It's like jumbo shrimp. Has anybody seen a shrimp this big? There are no jumbo shrimp. There's a little bit bigger ones than the bigger ones, but they're all shrimps. Okay, they're all small. That article right there, 2026, is not part of the Constitution. Now, if you look at the Constitution of the United States, because there's 2 of them, the opposite brackets are on those ones. Okay? So if you're a citizen, you got to read the second one. And if you're a sovereign, you need to read the first one. That's all there is to it. Now, I've got one more quick thing to tell you. What?
Could you explain the 4 corners?
The 4 corners rule? Yeah. Just a quick thing to have some fun. The next time you get a ticket, if a highway patrolman pulls you over, be real nice. Hand them your license and tell them that's your corporation license. Okay? That's my corporate traveling pass. Have some fun with it, okay? Be nice to the guy. But when you sign your name in the ticket, put a square box around the signature area and make sure it's all locked in, so that it's, and then sign in that box and hand it back to him. Okay? If you guys know what A for V is, go ahead and get that on there too. All right? Now, when you hand that to him, if it gets back to the court, there's no signature on it. Okay? You guys, if you know how to defend that, it's a lot of fun. Okay, I'm just telling you, that's one way to do it. But everything that's boxed in on this thing, now I'm not going to show you all this stuff because this is great for you to go home and turn off 2.5 Men. You don't have to worry about them. They're not recording anymore. So don't watch TV. If you're going to watch TV, just watch maybe half as much as you normally do and get on the computer and pull up Constitution for the United States. Go ahead.
What's the opposite of the square brackets? You mentioned it's the opposite. What are those things?
Okay. Anything that's in a square box, it's called the 4 corners rule. That means anything that's within a box on a document, it does not pertain to that document. It's like it doesn't even exist. It's empty. It's gone. It's not there.
Is that like a comment?
Well, if you look in a lot of the books where they... I have an old book from the 1800s about woodworking. And they were talking about how they would sharpen blades. And because the book was so old, they used to do almost all their sharpening with a stone and a leather strap. Okay? Well, then down at the bottom, they added something in there that you can get a whetstone on a grinding wheel, and you can do all this with an electric buffer. Okay, so they added that in there, and they put it in boxes, which means that the author didn't write that into there. Somebody put that in there. Okay? So it's really not part of the book. That's the same thing with your credit card bills. If you see a credit card bill, everything is always in squares over to the right. Have you ever noticed that? You want to make a payment? The square boxes. When you put a number in there and you send in a check, because those numbers are in the boxes, your payment never gets put back into your account. You made a contribution to a corporation called Visa or MasterCard, and they're going to sit on that for about 3.5 years, and then they're going to claim it that you abandoned your money. Okay? Now, when you start seeing boxes, I want you to check this out. There's boxes everywhere. Okay? I mean, everywhere. I went into Western Union and sent a friend $200 the other day. What an experience that is. Okay, I had to write in the box $200 to put into the system so that they would transfer it to someone else. The $200 was just an indication of what I would like to be in the system for somebody in a different area. When I signed my name to that union, okay, that name is what put the money into the system. My signature is what created the money. Now when the money went in there, okay, by my signature, out of thin air, I gave the guy $200 free to do whatever he wanted with. So, are you guys following that? The $200 disappeared. It never made it to him. I signed something that caused the $200 to come in there. Now, as I was leaving, getting ready to go, they go, "We got one more thing for you to sign." I go, "What's that?" They go, "An authorization to transfer the money somewhere else." And I said, "So you're going to get 2 signatures?" How about that? So I signed it again. Okay, now I called up my buddy and I go, "Hey, let me know if they make you sign twice." He goes, "Okay." So he signed once, they gave him the money, but before they gave him the money, they said, "You got to sign one more time here." So what they did is they did a dual transaction for $400, okay? They kept all $400, and I'm sure they gave the IRS their cut because I created that money with my signature. And I gave them $200 for doing me a favor, transferring the money through a wire to somewhere else, okay? So as you're going along, all these square boxes that were on that, on the Union, what is it called? Western Union. There were square boxes everywhere. I mean, they really got themselves covered. So while you're out there doing commerce, okay, while you're out there doing this stuff, keep your eyes open. Start seeing it. Do you remember that old movie with Roddy Piper? You remember he puts on the glasses and all those people are all jacked up?
They live.
Do you remember that movie? And you could only see him when the glasses were on? Well, I'm giving you a pair of glasses tonight. I want you to wear them. Keep your eyes open. The Word of God says, study to show yourself approved. We got to study, guys. The remedies are everywhere. They're hid everywhere. And all those rules and zones and codes and all that stuff, there's a remedy in every one of them that we can get out, okay, of whatever contract it is. We're having some great success. 3 or 4 places now that we know of that the judges are actually asking for the note, the original note on a foreclosure, to be married to the default judgment. It has to be married according to the laws.
One of these components, all of this, everything I do today, if it looks like I'm dressed like this, everything in those videos applies to any country that has a central banking system in place. So everything I do on this board it relates directly to all central banking communities, countries, companies, whatever you want to call them. Everything I talk about today. And let's just get to that for a second. Today I'm going to talk about the will and testament, what that actually means, because I don't believe anybody in America, possibly the world, other than those in control, know what the will and testament actually consists of. I'm going to be doing a quick once-over on the concept of the law merchant. In the United States, or within the United States, the law merchant is called the Department of Justice. That's the system that they put in place, the bankers put in place in 1870 to look over their property. I'm going to be doing sort of a timeline sketch of the birth certificate and the certificate of live birth and the entities that Mom and Mother created when she went into their public charitable hospital called the Foundling Hospital. And finally, probably the most important thing I do today is going to be called what I call the house. And everybody watching this, whether they want to believe it or not, I don't care how patriotic you think you're going to be, after this explanation of the house, there shouldn't be a soul who wants to live under the terms of those that claim to be your caretakers. Because everybody watching this, 100%, I guarantee it, 100% of everybody that's watching This explanation lives in their house, resides within their house, under their roof. Everything I'm going to talk about today basically hinges around this simple story. Here's what's happening, what has happened to all of us, and has happened to everybody, ultimately since 1933. Since the New Deal, since the ultimate bankruptcy of the United States, where the international bankers, the Bank of England, took control, or basically took ownership of the United States. So mom, your mom, your mom, your mom, all of your moms, everybody. Mom goes into a hospital, a public hospital, anywhere in America. Actually, mom goes into a hospital anywhere in the world where there's a central banking system. Mom goes into a hospital. The hospital is considered a public hospital, but it's also considered a charitable hospital. And a charitable hospital is also considered to be a foundling hospital. That's F-O-U-N-D-L-I-N-G. A foundling hospital. What's a foundling hospital? A foundling hospital is where children are abandoned by their maiden mothers to the state. They're given away to the state because the mother is considered a pauper and needs help by somebody. So every hospital is a charitable hospital in the world that has a central banking organization running it. Every charitable hospital is a foundling hospital where every child born within it is considered a foundling and abandoned to the state. What does that mean? That means that the child, here's the way it works. Mom goes into the hospital, abandons her child, the state picks up the child, legally adopts it through a legal process, not a lawful process, but a legal process. The state becomes the guardian over the child's estate and administrates over the child's estate until he's 18. At 18, the child should be able to take over administrative authority, but cannot, because the child never takes responsibility for his estate, for his property, for his life, and because of that, the state continues to administrate for the man or woman at this point for the rest of the man or woman's life. That's what's happening. Also, the administrative authority, the entire system is probate, but the administrative authority is what we think is the court system in America, the Department of Justice. The Department of Justice, again, is not a system of law, it's a system of commerce. And the Department of Justice is overseeing the administrative, the authority, has the authority to administrate over every child born and has since 1933, the New Deal. So again, every man, woman, and child born in America since 1933 is considered to be an orphan. That orphan lives in a house called Congress. That house has house rules. How many people have children? Okay, yeah. And of course, I mean, depending on how old they are, yeah. In your house, again, my dad said it, your dad said it, everybody's father said it at some point, maybe even some mothers. But what did they say? You live under my roof, you go by my rules. Well, in the House of Congress, where all of the abandoned children live, they have their own rules. What are those rules called? Public policy. So every man, woman, and child in America, they're all orphans living in an orphanage known as the United States, and the house of that orphanage is called the House of Congress, and Congress oversees or administrates the property of all of these orphans as well, and that's what we have going on here in America. By the way, for those of you patriots out there that think that you're voting for your jailers or for your administrators, you are not. You're considered to be a minority within the House. And remember, minors do not have legal, what? They don't have legal rights because they're underage. So since we're all considered minors, none of what we do, none of our actions are considered legal Therefore, none of our actions have we have no input on what happens in the House. And remember also that it doesn't matter whether it's the left or the right, they're both the same management team. Inside the House, the Republicans and Democrats, including the Ron Pauls of the world, they're the same management team. That's the way it works. So I want to tell that story because everything else from this point forward will make more sense.
Out of these troubled times, our fifth objective, a new world order, can emerge, a new era. We have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order, a world where the rule of law, not the law of the jungle, governs the conduct of nations. When we are successful, and we will be, we have a real chance at this new world order, an order in which a credible United Nations can use its peacekeeping role to fulfill the promise and vision of the UN's founders. A new world order where diverse nations are drawn together in common cause. Now we can see a new world coming into view. A world in which there is the very real prospect of a new world order. And that's why I wanted to speak to you today about the new world taking shape around us, about the prospects for a new world order now within our reach.
Ways it will drive the change is through global governance and global agreements.
As I've told you before, because I love it so much, they also created the Great Seal of the United States. And that Great Seal of the United States has on it Novus Order Seclorum, a new order for the centuries, for the ages, forever.
This present window of opportunity during which a truly peaceful and interdependent world order might be built.
You believe deeply in your system, and we believe just as deeply in our system. It is not our common beliefs that have brought us together here, but our common interests and our common hopes. The interest that each of us has to maintain our independence and the security of our peoples, and the hope that each of us has to build a new world order.
I think a new world order is emerging, and with it the foundations of a new and progressive era of international cooperation.
Be the time, because you really need to bring China into the creation of a new world order, financial world order.
Its task will be to develop an overall strategy for America in this period when really a new world order can be created. It's a great opportunity. It isn't just a crisis. There's a need for a new world order, but it has different characteristics in different parts of the world.
The affirmative task we have now is to actually create a new world order, because the global order is changing again.